Hello, and welcome once again to the Dental Marketing Mastery Series. This podcast is brought to you by dentalwebcontent.com and New Patients Incorporated. I'm Howie Horrocks, the founder of New Patients Incorporated. Along with me once again is my friend and partner and the president of New Patients Incorporated, Mark Dilatush. Hello, everybody. Welcome to all of our listeners who must be in the thousands by now. Hello, Mark. How you doing?
I think we are in the thousands.
Oh, my gosh.
That's pretty, I don't know. I guess it's impressive. They keep coming back, too.
Do you get the feeling that you're being stalked or something? Sometimes I do.
Yeah, Facebook, man. So what do we have on the agenda for today, Howie?
Well, we're going to talk about how to locate your practice or relocate it.
Or get a new practice, or maybe a startup.
Yeah, maybe any of those situations.
So how to position yourself to have, or buying a practice. Actually, this applies to everyone.
Sort of does, yeah.
Yeah, it sort of does. All right. So, and we get these questions all the time. Okay. Locating a dental practice. If it were me, if it were my money, my personal money, forget business money, my personal money, I took all my money out of savings and I said, I'm going to start up my own practice or buy a practice or locate a new practice, maybe it's my second, third, or fourth practice, where should I do that? That's the question that we're trying to help you solve today. My first move would probably be to call Scott McDonald at drdemographics.com, and I would have him isolate the top 5 dental markets within, let's see, how far am I willing to drive each day? Let's say 30 minutes. So I'm going to give them my home address, and I'm going to ask them to give me the top 5 dental markets within a 30-minute commute in all directions.
Right. That's kind of a macro look at it. That's the very first thing you should do. But that doesn't mean that you're gonna find a place that's you might be doing this in San Diego and you might never find anything that matches your criteria.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, in every market. Right. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, in every market, there is the top 5 markets. It just so happens that compared to the next county over, those top 5 markets suck.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, just because you want to live in La Jolla, California, which is basically a canyon, an interstate, and an ocean. Basically, it's an island, okay? Just because you want to live there doesn't mean that it's really viable to do a business of dentistry there, okay?
Right.
So, yeah, no, Howie's point is choose wisely. We counsel people all the time. I live in this area of Southern California, let's say Irvine, California. And I want to open a practice in Irvine, California, or some neighboring town to Irvine. And we just kind of roll our eyes and we say, why? There's dentists with sandwich boards with Rastafarians selling dental implants for $89. Okay, in Irvine, California. How are you going to compete with that? Right? Like, what are you doing to yourself?
Well, and then by the same token, they could say, well, I won't compete. I'm not going to be the lowest price guy, which is good. But there's already a whole horde of dentists who are targeting the top end. So you're kind of messed up either half of the market you choose, because it's already been being well covered with those high population areas.
Right. So my number one indicator would be doctor-patient ratio. My number 2 indicator would actually be projected growth. It's one thing to say that a market is a 1 to 1,500 market. Okay, yeah, it's not really exciting. It's a little bit below the national average. Yeah, it's okay. But if it's projected for 10% growth over the next 5 years, 10% growth each year for the next 5 years, well, you could get on top of a wave. You could ride for the rest of your 25-year dental career. So the second thing I would look at, sure, would be the growth projections of the area. The third thing I would look at would be the industry. You have declining industries and you have exploding industries. I would want to know if the employment base was stable, because that's important. So if you use those three criteria to either go find a selling dentist or find available lease space or find possibly a second or a third or fifth or 12th location for your own enterprise, those would be the three criteria I would use. I can tell you I've heard countless, just endless stories of new owners who say, well, I bought this practice because it was for sale. Well, okay. But nobody held a gun to your head, and nobody told you not to analyze the market area you were buying into. Nobody told you to buy into a 1 to 900 market area. Why did you buy that practice? You can't, just because it was for sale is not an answer. And just because you didn't previously own a practice is not a viable answer. It's really a recipe for disaster. Okay. So, you have practices for sale everywhere. I want everyone to think, if you're in the market to buy a practice, I want you to think about this for a second. This is going to be second, maybe third level knowledge for you. Let's say you're in a really, 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 really competitive market. Like there's some areas around Detroit, Michigan, 90% of the city of Houston. Where the doctor-patient ratios are 1 to 5, 1 to 600. It's just a total. Las Vegas isn't, most parts of Southern California. It's just a total nightmare mess, trying to build or buy a practice in there. Yeah. Is it more likely for more practices to be for sale in a really competitive market? The answer is yes, of course.
That's the first thing you ask. Why is it for sale?
Why is it for sale? Right.
Because the previous dentist beat his head against the brick wall.
Gee, 42-year-old doctor, why did you all of a sudden decide not to continue on in dentistry and move to Idaho and become a farmer, right? Why did you make that life choice at this point in your life? Okay, it's one thing to be a 67-year-old dentist who's basically just done. Right. I don't want to do dentistry anymore. I want to go live in Florida with my wife. Right. It's another thing for a dentist in their mid 30s or 40s or 50s to be selling their practice. Huge indicator. Go look at the doctor-patient ratio in that surrounding area. Now, for those of you people who are in a very competitive market, who also know about other dental practices in or near you who may or may not be for sale, or they may be manned by someone who's in their 60s or early 70s and may be contemplating retirement. What you're talking about there is acquiring a practice for the purposes of market consolidation. Now, you can turn a 1 to 600 market into a 1 to 900 market really quick if you eliminate dentists. And the way you eliminate dentists is you buy them.
Buy up their charts.
You buy up their charts. Okay. There's another opportunity that you make, because we have doctors they'll send us, they'll go to our website. There's a little iPad on our website. That's the entry to a client survey. And that's where people go to give us basic information before we build a marketing plan for them. And a lot of times they'll go in there, and they'll say, I want to grow my practice. I want to be aggressive. I want to do more fun dentistry. I want to do implants. I want to do this, that, and the other thing. And we go do an analysis of the market, and it's a 1 to 600 for the next 20 miles. And no amount of money, no amount of marketing, no amount of genius, no amount of testing, training, no amount of anything is going to penetrate a 1 to 600 market in any reliable fashion. And we go back to the doctor and say, Doc, how do you feel about taking your marketing budget and buying practices? And the doctor a lot of times goes, yeah, I never thought of that. I said, well, in a 1 to 600 market, there aren't enough people to go around for the dentists who are already there. Y'all need 750 active charts just to support a 30-hour week. There's only 600 humans. Okay, so
yeah.
Okay, so
even
unless
if you got all of your fair share, you'd still only have half or 3/4 of a practice.
Right. So I got my buddy Guido over here. For a 6-pack, he can go kneecap some dentists for you. But Plan B has got to be, purchasing dental practices, right? And that's a very viable market. Now, it doesn't involve our firm. We don't do that. We don't do acquisitions. We don't do transitions. We don't do any of that stuff, okay? But as a marketing company, it is our primary duty to counsel you whether or not we do the work, right? And that's one of the times where we will counsel somebody away from us and we'll say, hey, Doc, why don't you go buy a couple of these, 2 or 3 of these practices and assimilate the patient base into the hours of operation and your operatories and the dentist that you currently have. That'll be cheaper in the long run than it will be to put that money on the street and try to attract people into your practice because there just simply aren't enough of them around. So a lot of times that works. Dentists... Go ahead.
Let's take a little break here, and so we can get our ad in, and then we'll come back and we'll wrap this up. There's some more things to know about this.
We have an ad.
Yes, we do. Here it comes. We hope you're enjoying our podcast. Let me ask you, do you have a roadmap for your marketing? Why not let New Patients Incorporated do it for you? Our marketing plans have been proven effective for over 27 years for hundreds of practices across lots of different countries. We will give you the marketing data for your area, a marketing budget. We'll show you how to allocate your budget, and then we will show you the proper deployment strategies for each medium. Click on the header where it says Complimentary Marketing Plan when you go to www.newpatientsincorporated. All right, we are back.
That was our ad.
Yeah, pretty cool, huh?
We're a marketing company. We can do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were talking about dentists buying up
practices.
Mitigate the lousy dentist to population ratio.
Exactly. Now let's take the exact opposite. Because most of the time when you take the opposites, the middle makes more sense. Let's take the exact opposite. Let's say you're a dentist and you stumbled upon, let's say that you're a dentist who wants to live in southeastern Indiana, wants to treat children, and you do the numbers and you see that, southeastern Indiana is a 1 to 32,000 doctor-patient ratio.
3,200?
32,000.
Oh, is that right?
There's
I didn't
one
know
dentist
that.
willing to work on children. There's 32,000 kids running around.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah,
All
makes sense.
So let's say you're that dentist. Oh, my God. That wonderful, right? What an incredible opportunity that would be. And let's say you came to us. And you said, well, what would be your counsel, Mark? What would you say I should do? What would you do if you were me, Mark? And I would take as much budget as I possibly could, and I would put as much of it on the street as fast as I could. I would build that out so big, it would be, competing would be unattainable. Like a competition would come in and look and just say, never mind. We're just going to move away. Most dentists would look at a market like that and say, oh, cool. I got it all to myself. I can take my time. I don't need the market. I'm just going to hang a shingle. Hell, I don't even need a website. I'm just going to go to the local elementary school, introduce myself to all the kindergarten teachers, and I'll be a millionaire pedodontist by the end of my second year. And that might be true, but the risk you're taking is inviting competition in.
And especially at the corporate level.
Especially at the, oh my God, can you imagine? And they will they will eat your lunch with their marketing budget, right? So some of these things are counterintuitive to what you might think. Some of our counsel might be counterintuitive to what you might think. New doctors looking for their very first site, their very first startup. Actually, we're doing a couple startups now. Wow. Do not open, and we have probably 3 or 4 startups this year who are going to start up in like November, which is the worst time to be a startup. So let me give you some free advice. The best time to open your doors would be, I would say January 1st, January, February, March, April, May, June. You have good, solid 6 months of good statistical months to promote dentistry to the masses to get yourself up and running. Probably the last month you want to open up your doors and have a grand opening would be, let's say, the second week in November. Because the next 6 weeks are dead. Mom is toast. You got Thanksgiving, you got Christmas, you got New Year's, you got all that stuff and parties and kids and, you know, all that extra stuff that mom has to do in those time frames to take all of her attention away from what you're trying to provide her. So there's some free advice. They're not really location based. However, it could be the opposite based on location. You could be opening in February, or excuse me, you could be opening in Florida. And what arrives in Florida every year in November, Howie?
Well, these people, they call them snowbirds.
Snowbirds, right? So if you're in a snowbird community of Florida, in some sections of Arizona, actually some areas of the panhandle of Florida, and even over into Texas, experience the snowbird phenomenon. If you happen to be in a place like that, then obviously you have to make adjustments accordingly. Other locations, signage. I would definitely choose having the benefit of maximum signage allowable on a busy street. I would opt for plenty of parking. You may not want to do ortho now, but at some point in the future, you may have an orthodontist on staff. And if you ever have an orthodontist on staff, you need however many operatories wide every 10 minutes for every hour that orthodontist is on staff.
Yeah, and you need also corresponding parking space. I know.
That's what I mean, yeah.
The dentist right across the street from me, he got a roaring practice going, and then he ran out of room to put people. It's a capacity issue, so he had to move down the street. But anyway, yeah, that's something to consider before you open.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff to consider before you open. Again, let's just recap. Number one is doctor-patient ratio. Nothing will trump it. Nothing will ever trump it. It's how businesses decide on location. It's
supply and demand.
It's how Walmart decides on location, right? Stop looking for a different thing. I mean, that's it. Okay. Types of patients, doctor-patient ratio. That's your indicator. If you have a 1 to 1,200, a 1 to 1,300, and a 1 to 1,400, okay, look at all 3 potential markets, but keep those numbers into consideration. It's going to take you longer to build a practice in a 1 to 1,200 than it will in a 1 to 1,400. Same thing's true with a 1 to 1,800 or a 1 to 2,200.
It'll take longer and it'll cost more money.
That's right. It's going to take longer.
The higher that number is.
Exactly. Right. It's not an uncertain. It's very predictable. Okay. So, there's one of the things dentists hate, especially when they're choosing a new location, they're building a new practice, is they hate uncertainties. Well, this isn't one of them. Don't make it one. Okay. Don't make it I hope I succeed. No, wait a second. Okay. 750 charts. If you're going in as a startup with 0 patient assets, you need 750 charts in your first year to make a 30-hour work week work. Okay. And let's say you're just bare minimum, three chairs, person at the front desk, and maybe an assistant, right? Bare bones stuff. You still need 750 charts. Acquisition cost is going to be $100 to $125 a piece in an average market. What's 750 times 125, Howie?
I don't know.
Something like 85 grand, right? Okay, so so all of this is predictable. You're not going to drive the acquisition cost down. Certainly, if you're in a more competitive market than average, you're not going to drive it down. It's going to go up. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is all kind of math principle. And I mean, there's some subjective things in here, but man, if you follow the math and you follow the statistics and the research and the testing and all that, if you follow all that stuff, hardly any of this is uncertain. Most of it is very predictable. So.
Right. And then, of course, continuing the recap, you want to look at the potential population growth, growing area or declining area. People are moving out, leaving California and coming over here to Vegas, which many of them are doing.
Right.
That might be a bad place to set up.
There's a giant. Yeah, no, and generally, if you look at a big, like not even a big city, like a moderate city, let's say, I don't know, St. Louis or Indianapolis, you have a big interstate going through town, and then you have those, like the ones that make a circle, the bypass interstates. You look at almost any city in America, and you look around the outside of that bypass interstate, and there's your growth. Just on the outside. Go away from the center of town, just on the outside of that bypass, and you will, if you do your analysis right, you're going to find your top 5 dental markets somewhere out there. Anywhere where there's cranes that are building houses.
Yeah.
You got anything else, Howie?
No, I think we've gotten that one down. So okay. We'd like to thank all of you out there listening, and we hope you come back next time, and we will see you soon. Bye now. We hope you've enjoyed our podcast today. You can find more podcasts on our YouTube channel, on Stitcher, and iTunes. Also on our websites, dentalwebcontent.com and newpatientsinc.com.